The dust of the Tanzanian dawn clung to everything: Aisha's practical braids, her tan uniform, even the air she breathed. Dr. Aisha Kendi, a wildlife veterinarian whose hands had healed countless creatures across this vast landscape, spotted the anomaly just beyond the compound's fence. A shape too large and too still lay slumped against a sun-baked acacia tree. Her heart clenched before her mind could fully process it. A lioness. And she was down. As Aisha cautiously approached, the details sharpened into a horrifying tableau. The lioness, later named Nima, was massive, her flanks rising and falling with shallow, ragged breaths. A gash, wide and deep, ripped across her right shoulder, weeping a dark, foul-smelling fluid. A buffalo horn, Aisha surmised, had done this damage. Infection was clearly setting in, a silent predator gnawing at the edges of her life. And this wasn't just any lioness. The swollen abdomen indicated she was pregnant, profoundly so. Her proximity to the human settlement was a ticking time bomb. A desperate, wounded apex predator too close for comfort. Juma, Aisha's lean, watchful Maasai assistant, arrived minutes later, his traditional shuka a splash of crimson against the ochre landscape. He knelt, his eyes, usually so stoic, clouded with concern as he took in the scene. "Severe infection, Dr. Aisha. Days, maybe. She's already fading." His words echoed Aisha's own grim assessment. "We need to help her," Aisha stated, the words a raw whisper against the vast silence. She knew the immense risk, the unforgiving nature of a wounded wild animal, but the sheer desperation in Nima's eyes, the quiet suffering, was a siren call to her very core. She reached for her satellite phone, her fingers fumbling with urgency. The conservation authorities, the nearest backup, were 3 hours away, entangled in a fresh poaching incident far to the south. 3 hours. For Nima, it might as well have been a lifetime. A chilling silence descended, broken only by the rasping breaths of the dying lioness. Aisha faced an agonizing decision: adhere to strict protocol and allow Nima to succumb to her injuries, or defy every safety guideline and attempt to treat a dangerous wild predator without adequate backup. The choice was clear, yet terrifying. "She won't last 3 hours. We can't wait," Aisha declared, her voice firmer now, her moral compass overriding the cold tendrils of fear. "We'll treat her here." Juma's concern was palpable, a dark shadow in his eyes. "This is very dangerous, Dr. Aisha. Even a sick lioness can kill." He was right, of course. A cornered animal, even one teetering on the brink, possessed an instinctual fury, but Aisha had already committed. With precise, practiced movements, Aisha loaded a dart gun, her focus absolute. From a safe distance, she delivered the sedative, watching as Nima's powerful form slowly relaxed, her breathing easing into a deeper, less panicked rhythm. Only then, with Juma at her side, his hand never leaving the medical bag, did Aisha approach. The heat radiating from Nima's body was feverish, a testament to the battle raging within her. As Aisha began her initial examination, her fingers probing gently through the lioness's thick mane, she encountered something unexpected. A small, tightly wound leather and bead charm, clearly of Maasai origin, was tied discreetly around Nima's neck, partially hidden by her fur. It was non-tracking, purely ceremonial. Juma's intake of breath was sharp. His expression, already grave, turned almost reverent, tinged with a new, unsettling understanding. "This is Maasai medicine, Dr. Aisha," he whispered, his eyes wide. "Someone has marked this lion for spiritual reasons." Aisha, though intrigued, forced herself to push the revelation aside. The immediate medical crisis demanded her full attention. She worked methodically, the stench of infection heavy in the air. She cleaned the deep, lacerated wound, painstakingly debriding the necrotic tissue, her hands moving with a surgeon's precision. IV fluids dripped steadily, antibiotics surged into the lioness's system, a desperate fight against the spreading rot. Each cut, each stitch was a plea for life. Then came the ultrasound. The probe slid over Nima's taut belly, and on the small screen, 3 distinct rhythmic pulses flickered into view, 3 strong, undeniable heartbeats. Not 1, but 3. Aisha's breath hitched, her resolve solidified, reinforced by the profound responsibility she felt for these unseen lives. Hours blurred. As the sun climbed higher, casting long, sharp shadows, Aisha stepped back, Exhausted but hopeful, the wound was dressed, Nima stabilized, the sedative was beginning to wear off. They watched, tense as Nima's eyelids fluttered. Slowly, powerfully, she lifted her massive head, her golden eyes, now clear and alert, sweeping across the compound. Instead of fear or aggression, instead of fleeing, Nima turned her gaze unwavering directly at Aisha. A soft rumbling sound, a chuff escaped her throat, a sound of greeting, of reassurance, not threat. Then, with a mighty trembling effort, she pushed herself up, tested her weight on her mended shoulder, and limped away towards the fading horizon, leaving Aisha profoundly unsettled by the lioness's unprecedented gratitude and intelligent connection. 2 days crawled by with an agonizing slowness. Nima remained in the dense thicket just beyond the compound, a shadow amongst the shadows. Her strength was returning, but slowly. She moved little, the effort of hunting still too great for her compromised body, sustained only by the small kills Aisha and Juma left for her. Aisha watched her constantly, the hum of her small generator the only constant against the vast, watchful silence of the savannah. Juma returned from the nearest village late that evening, his face unusually somber. He sat across from Aisha in the dim light of her lantern, the news heavy in the air. "The charm, Dr. Aisha," he began, his voice low. "It belonged to Mzikito, a revered elder. He passed away the same day Nima was injured." The coincidence hung in the air, thick and oppressive. Aisha, ever the scientist, attempted to dismiss it, to rationalize it away. "Coincidence, Juma. A sad one, but a coincidence. We'll stick to the facts, the GPS data, the scientific monitoring." Her words, however, lacked their usual conviction. The third dawn broke, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples. Aisha was already up, charting Nima's slow recovery, when Juma's urgent whisper pierced the stillness. "Dr. Isha, you must see this." His tone was unlike anything she'd heard from him. Not fear, but profound awe, tinged with a deep, ancient apprehension. Aisha stepped onto her porch, binoculars already in hand. The sight that unfolded before her stole her breath, freezing her in place. It was impossible. Beyond the compound's perimeter, a vast, silent congregation of lions, more than 50, perhaps 60, males, females, adolescents, even cubs, their tawny coats blending with the dry grass, yet their sheer numbers creating an undeniable presence. They sat or lay, arranged in a wide, almost perfect circle around her compound, their eyes fixed not on her but on the small utilitarian veterinary clinic. "This is not possible," Juma whispered beside her, his voice barely audible. "Even the largest pride has no more than 20. But there they were, a silent, powerful ring of golden predators. And among them, distinct in her stillness and focus, was Nima, sitting upright, her gaze unwavering on the clinic. Aisha's hands trembled as she fumbled for her satellite phone, punching in Dr. Nuru Hassan's number. Nuru, the head wildlife biologist, answered, her voice groggy. "Nuru, it's Aisha. Get Commander Omar. You need to get here now. There are lions everywhere." She briefly described the surreal scene. Nuru's reply was startling, devoid of her usual scientific detachment. "We've been monitoring unusual lion movements, Aisha, across the entire region since yesterday. Multiple GPS-collared individuals, all converging on your location." A cold dread seeped into Aisha's bones. "Why wasn't I alerted that multiple lions were converging on my location?" she demanded, a sharp edge to her voice. Nuru hesitated, a beat too long. "The pattern only became clear this morning, Aisha. We thought it was a hunt, a new territorial dispute, nothing like this." Her deflection felt flimsy, insufficient. As Aisha ended the call, Juma spoke again, his eyes scanning the silent pride. "The village elders have sent word. They believe this gathering is linked to Mzikito's death. A spiritual passage, they say." Minutes later, a battered Land Rover approached, carrying not only Ranger Commander Omar, but also Mzi Jabari, the most knowledgeable elder from the nearby Maasai community. Mzi Jabari stepped out, solemn and dignified, his wise eyes taking in the breathtaking spectacle of the encircling lions. He walked towards Aisha, his gaze unwavering. "The lions have come for the birthing, Dr. Aisha," he proclaimed, his voice resonant with ancient conviction. "The marked one carries important cubs." Dr. Nuru, who had just arrived, looked skeptical, her scientific training clearly battling with the impossible reality before her. Lions give birth in seclusion, Mzi Jabari, far from human settlements. This defies all known behavior. But Mzi Jabari merely nodded, his gaze unwavering. These are not just any cubs, Dr. Nuru. Mzi Kito saw this. The marked lioness carries a special litter. The weight of his words, combined with the impossible sight before them, sent a shiver down Aisha's spine. The rational world was crumbling around her, replaced by something far more profound, far more unsettling. The sun climbed, beating down on the tense tableau, and Nima's condition visibly deteriorated. Her massive body, already weakened, now struggled against the unmistakable contractions rippling through her flanks. She shifted, grunting softly, unable to find comfort. Her head lolled, her gaze distant. Early labor had begun, and the infection, Aisha noted with a fresh wave of dread, seemed to be flaring. Dr. Kendi, I cannot allow that. Commander Omar's voice was sharp, his face etched with professional alarm. It's my responsibility to ensure human safety. We cannot send you into a pack of wild lions in labor. He gestured toward the silent golden ring of predators, an undeniable force of nature that rendered human protocol obsolete. Even Dr. Nuru, usually so composed, looked conflicted. She held a pair of binoculars, her gaze fixed on Nima. Aisha's assessment is correct, she admitted, her voice strained. The lioness is in distress. If we don't act, she and the cubs will die. The words hung heavy, a stark admission of the impossible situation. Mzi Jabari, however, remained resolute. They will not harm the one who helped the marked lioness, he stated, his eyes fixed on Aisha. But you must go alone with only the offering. No weapons, no machines. His words were an ancient challenge, a test of faith and courage. Aisha looked from Omar's panicked face to Nuru's worried one, then to Mzi Jabari's unwavering gaze, and finally to Nima, struggling in the distance. Her decision solidified, a quiet force blooming in her chest. I'm going out there. Her voice was steady, unwavering. There was no other choice. She moved with swift, practiced efficiency, gathering a light medical kit, sterile gloves, antibiotics, intravenous fluids, and basic delivery supplies. Juma, his face a mask of deep concern, approached her, his hand extended. In his palm rested a small, intricately beaded bracelet blessed by the elders. For protection, Dr. Aisha, he murmured, his eyes pleading with her to be careful. Aisha took it, slipping it onto her wrist, a fragile talisman against an overwhelming danger. Commander Omar, grim-faced, positioned his rangers, their rifles held at the ready, a last-ditch defense. Dr. Nuru, her hands surprisingly steady, set up a long-range camera, ensuring there would be video documentation, however grim. Every eye was on Aisha as she walked towards the main gate. The heavy metal groaned open, a sound that seemed deafening in the profound silence of the savannah. Aisha stepped through, carrying her small medical bag in one hand, and in the other, a traditional Maasai gourd filled with fresh milk, Mzi Jabari's offering. The instant she crossed the threshold, dozens of amber eyes, glowing like molten gold in the harsh morning sun, fixated on her. A wave of primal fear threatened to overwhelm her, but Aisha forced it down, focusing on her breathing, on maintaining a steady, respectful pace. She moved with deliberate slowness, her eyes scanning the periphery, but her destination was clear. The magnificent black-maned male, the alpha, who watched her from the front of the encircling pride, his gaze intense, assessing. She stopped a few paces from him, incredibly close, and knelt, exposing her vulnerability. She uncorked the gourd and extended it. The powerful male's nostrils flared, picking up the scent of the milk and of her. The tension was suffocating. Then, in an astonishing act, the alpha male shifted slowly, deliberately, creating a narrow passage through the silent, watchful pride. Aisha, her heart hammering against her ribs, rose and walked through the silent, terrifying gauntlet. She reached Nima, who was now fully in active labor, her large abdomen contracting violently, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Hello again," Aisha whispered, kneeling beside the struggling lioness, her voice soft, reassuring. She was acutely aware of the hundreds of pounds of muscle and teeth surrounding her, every fiber of her being screaming caution. Her professional instincts took over. As she began her examination, her fingers tracing the contours of Nima's body, she immediately noticed the renewed inflammation around the old buffalo horn wound. It pulsed with heat, clearly reactivated. But more alarmingly, as her eyes scanned Nima's distended abdomen, she saw them. Distinct, unusual spotted markings, clearly visible where the unborn cubs were pressing against the skin. These were not the faint spots of a typical lion cub, destined to fade. These were prominent, almost leopard-like. The infection had indeed flared, but the bizarre markings on the unborn cubs raised a chilling alarm bell in Aisha's mind. These were not natural. This hinted at a deeper, biological anomaly, a question that transcended simple veterinary care and plunged into the unsettling unknown. The savannah air hummed with an almost unbearable tension. Aisha moved with quiet urgency, the medical kit open beside her. She swiftly administered another round of antibiotics and a dose of fluids, speaking softly to Nima throughout. The lioness, despite the intense pain of labor, allowed Aisha to treat her with remarkable tolerance, her golden eyes, though glazed with exertion, holding no malice. As Nima's contractions intensified, the surrounding lions, an immense silent golden guard, drew closer, forming an even tighter protective circle around the birthing pair and Aisha. Their presence was a living wall, a testament to an instinctual primal understanding. Aisha could feel the heat radiating from their bodies, hear the subtle shifts of their weight in the dry grass. "The birth will happen soon," she reported quietly into her radio, her voice barely a whisper against the profound silence, noting the lions' unprecedented communal behavior. It defied every scientific paper she had ever read. The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, casting long, dramatic shadows across the land. And then, with a final powerful push from Nima, the first cub arrived. It was unusually large, even for a newborn, its wet fur clinging to its tiny body. Aisha's medical relief at its healthy cries was instant, overwhelming. But as she gently wiped it clean, her gaze fell upon its coat, and a chilling realization washed over her. Across its golden fur, distinct dark spots were clearly visible, not the faint, juvenile patterns that would eventually fade, but striking, almost leopard-like markings. They were too pronounced, too perfect, too unnatural. A collective soft hum, a ceremonial vocalization, rippled through the encircling pride. Acknowledgement. Approval. The second cub followed quickly, then the third, both healthy, squirming, and vocal. And both, like their elder sibling, bore the identical, highly distinctive spotted markings. Aisha was profoundly disturbed. These weren't just unusual markings. This was a profound genetic anomaly. Something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. 3 healthy cubs delivered, she reported, her voice tight with a mixture of awe and growing dread, all showing unusual spotted markings. With each subsequent birth, the circle of lions intensified its soft vocalizations, a deeper, almost reverent purr that vibrated through the ground. It was clear these cubs were special, marked. As twilight bled into full darkness, the entire pride, including the massive alpha male, began to approach Nima and her newborns. Aisha held her breath, anticipating aggression, a possessive snarl. Instead, the alpha male moved with a quiet, powerful dignity, settling himself protectively beside Nima, his massive head resting near her flank. It was a silent, unequivocal statement. These cubs were recognized, accepted, cemented into unique and important status within the pride. Aisha, gathering her supplies, knew she had witnessed more than a miraculous birth against all odds. She had seen evidence of something far more sinister, a human-related danger that manifested in the very biology of these cubs. The mystery of the charm, the elder's death, the unprecedented gathering of lions, it all coalesced into a disturbing pattern. Returning to the compound under the watchful, glowing eyes of the pride, Aisha was deeply shaken. The cub's bizarre markings haunted her, flickering behind her eyelids. They weren't just spots. They were a potential biomarker, a mutation, a sign that something or someone had interfered. "You've just rewritten our understanding of lion social structures, Aisha," Dr. Nuru observed, her voice filled with awe and excitement as Aisha stepped back inside the gate, exhausted. But Nuru was unaware of Aisha's growing internal dread, of the chilling truth that was beginning to dawn on her about the true nature of these extraordinary cubs. If you thought part 4 was shocking, you haven't seen anything yet. The pieces of this puzzle are falling into place, revealing a conspiracy so vast, so terrifying, it threatens to unravel everything we thought we knew about this world. Make sure you hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe so you don't miss a single terrifying detail as this story explodes into a fight for survival. Over the next 3 days, the plains around Aisha's compound became a living laboratory. Researchers, stunned by the unprecedented spectacle, documented communal cub care on a scale never before witnessed. Females from different prides nursed the special cubs, males stood sentinel, and the entire gathering challenged conventional science, rewriting textbooks in real time. The lion gathering of Ngorongoro swiftly garnered international media attention, with Aisha, the brave vet who walked among lions, hailed as the central human figure in this ecological marvel. Mz Jabari, with quiet pride, interpreted the cubs as harbingers of prosperity, a spiritual boon that significantly strengthened local conservation efforts, turning the compound into a hub of activity. 1 month later, the flurry of initial excitement had somewhat subsided, but the sense of wonder remained. Aisha, having finally received permission for a follow-up examination, approached Nima and her growing cubs. She observed them closely. Their growth was rapid, their movements fluid and strong, but the unusual spots, though fading slightly with their maturing coats, were still undeniably there, highly distinctive and, to Aisha's trained eye, unnatural. They clung to the cub's fur like a persistent echo of their bizarre birth. Nima, fully recovered, allowed Aisha to examine her cubs with a remarkable calm acceptance, a trust that deepened Aisha's bond with the lioness. Dr. Nuru Hassan, head wildlife biologist, was at the forefront of the scientific fervor, having established a dedicated research initiative specifically for the Nima pride and diligently tracking the development of the special cubs. Her team spoke of groundbreaking discoveries in lion social structures, of unprecedented ecological events. But for Aisha, a growing unease churned beneath the surface of all the scientific excitement. It clashed violently with her deep-seated concerns about the cub's genetic anomalies. The spots, however slight, were a constant, nagging reminder that something was fundamentally wrong. She couldn't shake the memory of Dr. Nuru's evasiveness about the unusual lion movements before the gathering. Why had there been no urgent alert then? And why, amidst all the marvel and scientific inquiry, was there such a distinct lack of official inquiry into the cub's unique markings? It was as if everyone chose to see them as a curiosity, not a clue. Aisha began to connect the dots, a chilling mosaic forming in her mind. The unique markings weren't just an oddity or natural variation. They could be biomarkers, undeniable genetic mutations, or even indicators of environmental contamination. The unprecedented lion gathering, she now suspected, wasn't just a spontaneous act of gratitude, but a desperate, intelligent collective response to a hidden human-made threat, an instinctual rally against an unseen danger. The thought chilled her to the bone. What if the spiritual connection Mz Keto and Mz Jabari spoke of was not merely ancient lore, but an ancient awareness, a deep-seated instinct passed down through generations, warning of a silent, man-made danger impacting their world, a threat now manifesting in the very biology of its creatures? Aisha realized the special nature of these cubs might be a symptom of a much larger, far more sinister problem, one that went beyond the savannah and into the corridors of power. She knew then that she needed to investigate the genetic anomaly further, and, crucially, she had to do it outside official channels. A dark, unsettling suspicion was forming, solidifying into a terrifying conviction. There was a classified incident or a corporate cover-up at play, something immense and dangerous, and Dr. Nuru Hassan, for all her scientific brilliance, might be complicit, or perhaps pressured to keep silent. 6 months later, the savannah teemed with life, and Nima's cubs, once fragile newborns, were now playful, boisterous juveniles. Their unique spots, though fainter, were still discernible, a ghostly echo of their peculiar birth. The elders say these cubs will grow to be special lions, Dr. Aisha, Juma remarked one afternoon, watching them tumble in the grass. They will remember the connection. His words, once comforting, now only deepened Aisha's unease. She couldn't shake the troubling questions surrounding their origin. The rapid growth, the unnatural marking, Nuru's evasiveness, it all gnawed at her. Aisha knew she had to act. During a routine follow-up with Nima's pride, under the guise of observation, she secretly collected a few strands of shed hair and some skin cells from the cubs, making sure Nuru's research team was distracted. It was a blatant violation of protocol, a risk she was willing to take. Breaking all official channels, she carefully packaged the samples and sent them to an independent geneticist contact, a trusted former colleague in another country. Weeks stretched into an agonizing wait. Then the results arrived. A terse email followed by a detailed report. Aisha's hands trembled as she opened it, dreading what she might find. The report confirmed her worst fears: unidentified genetic markers, anomalies that pointed unequivocally to either severe environmental contamination or, more chillingly, deliberate bioengineering. There was no natural explanation for these specific alterations. Armed with this undeniable evidence, Aisha confronted Dr. Nuru Hassan in her office late one evening. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and stale coffee, but the tension was electric. Aisha placed the sealed genetic report on Nuru's cluttered desk. "These cubs are not just special, Nuru," Aisha stated, her voice tight with suppressed anger and fear. "They're mutated. What aren't you telling me?" Nuru's calm professional facade, usually so impenetrable, began to crack. Her eyes, usually so sharp, darted away, a flicker of something akin to fear in their depths. "Some things are beyond our jurisdiction, Dr. Kendi," Nuru responded, her voice unnaturally strained. "There are classified incidents and significant government interests in this region that dictate certain parameters for our research." Aisha stared at her, the pieces of the puzzle clicking into place with horrifying clarity. Parameters? Nuru, these cubs are living evidence of something catastrophic. What classified incident? What government interests? Nuru pushed herself away from her desk, her voice dropping to a low, chilling warning. "Some truths are best left undisturbed, Aisha. For your own safety and for the project's integrity, drop this. You've done your part. Move on." It was a thinly veiled threat, a stark revelation of the power dynamics at play. In that moment, Aisha realized the terrifying scope of the corporate cover-up, a vast conspiracy threatening not only Nima's cubs, but the entire wildlife population, the very ecosystem she had dedicated her life to protecting. The unprecedented gratitude and organized behavior of the lions, their silent vigil, were not just a response to her aid, they were a desperate, intelligent plea against a silent, human-made threat, a biohazard permeating their world. The spiritual passage Mizukito saw wasn't just ancient folklore, it was a prophecy of a biological catastrophe, and Nima's journey to her compound was guided by an instinct, a primal urgency to seek aid against hidden dangers. Aisha looked down at the genetic report, its scientific language belying the profound, terrifying truth it contained. She had stumbled upon something powerful forces wanted buried, a secret that transcended science and plunged into the darkest corners of human ambition. "I won't drop it, Nuru," Aisha declared, her voice unwavering, despite the knot of fear tightening in her stomach. "Not until the truth is exposed, no matter the cost." She turned and walked away, leaving Nuru alone in the dimly lit office. Aisha knew with chilling certainty that she was a target now, but the truth burned brighter than any threat. She had to unveil this wildlife conspiracy, expose the secret project that created these genetically enhanced cubs, and face the hidden human forces head-on, alone if necessary. Dr. Aisha Kendi had faced the savannah's raw, untamed power for years, from injured elephants to emergency procedures on rhinos, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared her for Nima. Finding the dying pregnant lioness less than 50 yards from her compound had been a turning point, a moral crucible that forced her to defy protocol and confront an impossible risk. That initial act of compassion had spiraled into an unthinkable mystery, drawing her deeper into a web of ancient Maasai wisdom, unprecedented animal behavior, and chilling scientific anomalies. The silent vigil of over 50 lions, the inexplicable acceptance of her presence, and the bizarre, genetically altered cubs were no longer isolated incidents. They were pieces of a terrifying puzzle hinting at a hidden human agenda. The lion gathering of Ngorongoro was not just a miracle. It was a desperate, intelligent plea from the wild itself, a warning against a silent biohazard that threatened to unravel the very fabric of nature. Aisha now stood at the precipice of a vast corporate cover-up, a classified incident that intertwined government interests with environmental destruction. Alone and a target, she was now driven by an unyielding resolve to expose the truth, to give a voice to the silent cries of the savannah. The fight for these special cubs was just beginning, and Aisha knew with a chilling certainty that it would be the fight of her life.